We're live.
Okay, let me check on Facebook here. I'm not seeing anything on Facebook.
May take a second.
All right. No.
I don't see it on YouTube either. Let's see. YouTube Studio. I think I see it. YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, we're getting hellos on YouTube. Hello.
Oh, hello. Hello, YouTube.
Hello, we're making sure everything is working correctly.
We're trying to make sure that we are set. Oh, here we go. Here it is.
Found it.
Found it. Hello. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know that you see us. Welcome. Welcome to our paint along. I'm so excited to be here with you. I hope this little contraption here won't be too much of a bother when we're doing face forward, but it's how I can see comments. So hello, Sue. So great to see you, Sue.
Do you want to see a cool feature?
Yes.
You probably have to see it on YouTube or Facebook. There's going to be a delay, but I can put people's comments on the screen.
Oh, cool.
Like here's one from Laura. You ready?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Hi, Sarah. Laura here. And it'll pop up in a second. There's a delay between our things.
I'm just watching. I'm like, where is it?
Well, it's gonna be
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, hello. Oh, Debbie, we've missed you too. I'm so excited to paint with you guys tonight, and I'm going to just say hello for a minute so you guys can gather up all of your supplies. What we're painting today is the Willow tree project from the landscape workbook. And also, can you hear a lot of like residual noise?
Not a lot of residual. It is a little echoey, but we are in a big echoey space, just so you guys know.
Is it still echoey on the lapel?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
about the same.
Okay, well, we tried.
We tried a different mic. Sorry, friends.
We'll try something new again next time. Okay, Linda, hello. Okay, should we just like jump in? I guess.
I'm going to pin another comment. Hold on.
Okay.
How about Marcy? Hi, Marcy. I've missed you, friends. All right, and we can get rid of it now.
Wonderful.
What a
Wonderful
cool
to
feature.
see you all. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, usually I don't know if you guys know this, but once upon a time, Let's Make Art only did lives, and they were every single week. And I would always get like really nervous before them. I don't know why. It's just nervous being live. And but it's been a long time since we did one. And so tonight, while we were driving here, Michael was just like, "Are you nervous?" And I'm like, "No, I'm actually just excited. I'm excited to paint with people. It's just been way too long." So I'm so happy to be here. So we here, sorry, I'm reading comments and I'm getting distracted.
I think I can overlay all of the comments. Let's try it.
Can you?
New comments will display here.
Cindy said this is her first time she was able to join a live. She's so excited. Cindy, thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, it works.
It does work. Do they like it though?
I don't know. I mean, I might leave it on the whole time, but new comments pop up on the side.
Whoa.
Cool, huh?
Okay, Debbie said she was there for those lives. That was like, what, 6 years ago? I mean, we did them for a couple of years, but they started about 6.
It's actually why we moved to Missouri. Because you had to come do lives in Missouri and you were gone so much. We're like, we might as well just move there.
That's what we sure did.
And there we go.
That's why. Okay. Well, we know that we haven't really been able to share yet the exciting things that are happening. But while we're kind of waiting for that to be in a place where we can share, and I'm so thrilled about it, I thought like, okay, we can't tell them what's going on, but what I can do is I can paint with them. So like, let's just paint together and we can just hang out.
Love it.
Right?
I just pinned a comment. Let's Make Art, our friend Hadley, runs Let's Make Art, said, Michael, you're killing it with the text side. And so I just want everyone to see. Yes, thank you.
You are killing it.
It was a frantic rush up until this very moment at 7 o'clock, but we were making it. All right.
And we got here at like 6. It's just new. Okay, so let's get going. So, if you have the workbook, there is a supply list listed for the supplies, but I didn't want you to feel like you had to have the exact supplies. One of them is because the paint colors aren't necessarily available right now. So it's a pretty good reason for us to say, let's just use what you got. So I actually have a few different things here. I have the paint colors listed in the project, which are forest green, tiger orange, rose red, and azure blue. I also have some palettes from like smaller makers. So this here is my very well loved and used ocean paper palette. I also just ordered some new colors from Daniel Smith. So I thought I would try those out. So I have a bunch of different colors here. So please just use what you have. For the brushes, I have my round 2, my round 12, a fan brush, and then we use a 3/4 inch mop to kind of get the smear. If you do not have a 3/4 inch mop, that's okay. Grab a 1 inch brush and make sure it's dry. And that will do something similar. But yeah, basically any larger brush that's a little bit softer bristles that is dry can be used to smear and create our tree texture.
Love it.
Okay?
Cool.
Tina says, tell us. Shh, we won't tell anyone.
All right, guys, here it is. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was just like, no. Okay, so I have those brushes, but again, if you do not have those, then be creative with different solutions. If you don't even have a large 1 inch brush, I did try it with a paper towel, and that actually worked fine. It wasn't as nice as the brushes, but like, use what you got. Use a card. I don't know. Be creative. Okay.
Our friend Debbie says she loves Daniel Smith. You should do a workshop at their headquarters in Portland.
I should do a workshop at
so
their
fun.
Headquarters. That sounds awesome.
Bring husbands. Bring me.
Only if Michael can come.
Okay, good.
Obviously. Okay, so let's start with, let's do an oath together, and then we can get to painting. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay, so if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun. I had to find the bell.
You found it.
I was not ready. Man, I'm all sweaty about this live right now.
You're doing great.
I used to be an old hat at this. Now
You're doing good. Don't you worry about it. Okay, so now what we're gonna start, so basically we do this project in about 5 steps, but it is very loose. So even if you don't have this outline in front of you, you don't really need it in order to be successful at this project, because basically what we're doing is we're creating like around a splotchy area and then smearing it and then adding a trunk. So you can do that in any shape and size on any paper. And also trees are very wonky and there's so much variation in shape. And so I don't want you to stress if it doesn't look exactly like mine, if you don't have the outline, but please know the landscape workbooks are still available. So if you want to try it in this workbook, you can. Okay.
Okay, I got to read you one thing because she's said it twice and I think it's so sweet.
Okay.
Mrs. Mac says her son Griffin wrote you years ago and sent you a copy of the sloth he painted with you. He told you he loved willow trees and wanted a tutorial. He's now 15 and sitting by her ready to paint.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Here.
I actually am pretty sure I have that sloth
You do?
hanging in my office.
Yeah. She took my portrait down. Of her husband, just ripped it up and put the sloth up.
I'm like, so, Griffin painted this for me. I need to put it up.
Griffin, you nailed it, buddy.
Thank you. And I'm so excited. And willow trees are one of my favorites. So, okay, let's get into it. Gosh, that was.
We going overhead? We ready?
That's wonderful. Let's go overhead. Let's do it.
And I'll do a little picture in picture because it's the future.
Okay, so basically what we're going to do here is I'm going to have my larger brushes that I'm going to use for smearing color in my left hand ready to go, or your right hand if you're left-handed. And then I'm going to use my round 12 to put a light value green on my tree, okay? So don't overthink this, okay? We're painting fast and loose here. So I'm going to just take some forest green. If you don't have forest green, it's just a very desaturated green. You can use whatever green you're using. And I'm going to add water to it. because that's how you lighten the value. We might think that we need to have a lot more water on our brush, but that's not necessarily true. It's more like we either mix water with the color on our palette to lighten it, or we just pick up less paint. Okay, so I'm going to grab this light green and I'm just going to start. You might say, which blobs do I paint on this outline? Doesn't really matter. Just paint some blobs. I'm going to start on the left side first, and then I'm going to take my oval mop and just kind of smear it down. Okay. Now, just to give you guys a heads up, we are currently above a restaurant and also right by the only stoplight that's in our town. And there are a lot of semis that come through here, because I was actually thinking like, man, why do I hear trucks way more than I used to? Because I used to be a little bit further down the street. And it's because there's a stoplight right here. So they have to stop and then go again. That's why it's louder. So
I have an even better version of that story.
Okay, go.
We're above the only real restaurant in the town. At the only stop sign.
They're above the only restaurant that's open in the evening.
There happens to be 2 video studios in this town, though, and both of them are right here. So just poor placement.
Okay, so as you can see, I'm still just kind of putting in color. I'm being pretty loose with it. I'm kind of just going here and there. And what we're doing, if you look at a willow tree, or really any tree, the parts that are rounded out and coming towards you are going to be highlighted. And then, like, because there's different layers, how do I say this? If this part is in front right here, then it's going to be a lighter value than this part that's behind it. Does that make sense? Because it's in front.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Oh, Marcy asks, hopefully it's good food. Well, let me tell you, their tiramisu is a treat.
It's a righteous tiramisu
that I get myself pretty regularly. Okay, so if you want to start adding some blues into your green at this point, or other colors, because I love adding yellows, browns, blues into my greens, you can. I'm going to actually grab some of this Daniel Smith phthalo turquoise.
We have our first willow tree fact. I'll pop it up on the screen.
Oh, yay. Let's hear it.
Willow trees contain the compound in aspirin, so it's good to give to goats after they give birth.
Really?
Yeah. Thanks, Debbie.
That's fascinating.
I love this comments pin feature. It is my favorite thing.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just putting down different colors of green, different values, letting them, if they're a little bit wet and bleeding into each other, that's okay too. You just want to make sure that as you add more areas that have like darker greens or lighter, how do I say this? Don't cover all of your light sections up as you add more color and value, because we want to leave some there.
Let's try a close-up, guys. You ready?
Yeah.
Boom. Oh, yeah. Oh, dang.
Okay. And then if you don't have the mop, let me show you how to do it using the 1-inch wash. So I'm going to take some greens. I'm going to put some on the edges here. And then you can either hold the brush flat like this to get a wide, or if you want it more controlled and narrow, you could just turn it on its side and just go straight down.
Nina wants to know, what's your favorite project in this workbook?
Oh, my favorite project in this workbook is the night scene, hands down.
Yeah?
I love that night scene project. It's based off of one of my favorite paintings I've ever done. I love it.
And also, you people at home, I just keep hitting the ones where you're complimenting me because, you know.
Is that what you're doing?
I just keep
You're
hitting
just showing the ones that are being nice to you?
It's like, great camera work, Michael. I'm like, oh, pins.
So
Thanks,
now you
guys.
guys know what you need to do in order to get pinned.
Yeah, there you go.
Just be really nice to Michael there. Okay. And we just kind of keep doing this, you guys. This project, as you can see, I'm not like stopping to step away and being like, is this a tree yet? Nah, I'm just going to keep on going. And part of that is just because this one is just a little bit loose. I don't know. It's kind of just doing this process over and over again. I brought a little bit of tiger orange in just to kind of warm up some of my areas. And you can do like bigger areas, smaller areas. And I will say that this tree really comes together when we do that last step of adding the texture and the details and stuff like this. At this point, you're like, what's happening? That's okay. I'm going to try and go in between the branches a little bit. But remember, an outline is just a guide. So if you don't follow it exactly, if you end up covering all of your trunks, that's not the end of the world.
Sarah.
Yeah.
They're asking for a face reveal. Should I do it?
Of course, you should do it. We have to switch it to the...
Oh, yeah.
I'll stop painting. Did you switch it to the overhead? Yeah. This is my husband, Michael.
Hi.
He has a little bit of a black eye.
Yeah.
Because we were doing construction and a nail hit him, but he's okay. It's very scary. And he's walking, which is why the camera's shaking. It will stop shaking in a second.
All right, we're back.
My dear, you have such a handsome face. Thank you for sharing it.
You stop that. You're just trying to get your comment pinned.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I am. Michael and I have been married for
15 years.
Going on 15 years. Okay. So I'm feeling pretty good about where my tree is at this point. I might kind of smear some paint into the branch area because the brown is going to be a pretty dark value against the green. So even if I paint into the branch area a little bit, it's going to be fine because my brown is going to like lay nicely on top of that green.
Susan says very handsome.
Oh, Susan, you better pin that comment.
Oh, I did. Don't worry.
The other thing that I'm doing too when I'm painting this willow tree is I'm looking at the overall form. The form of a tree, and this tree particularly, is it's roundish, right? So when I'm going on the left side, you can see my brush strokes are kind of curving, and then I smear it down. Same thing when I hit the right side. Curve to the right, smear down. Okay, and then that just helps our viewer understand the overall form of what it is that we're painting. Brushstroke is really helpful in that way. It can give that viewer the information of if you were to touch this, would it be round? Would it be flat? You know, what would the shape be?
Sarah has always loved willow trees, you guys. I remember before we were even dating, her talking about she just loves weeping willows.
I do. They're just kind of whimsical, maybe a little bit like romantic. Oh,
what?
And this is a new green that I've never tried before. It's called Rare Green Earth.
Okay.
So look at that. That's like a gray green. That's pretty. Let's throw some blue in there though, and some yellow. Let's vibrant it up.
The eye injury, we built a little bookshelf in our house. It's very cute. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of that gray, desaturated green that you just put on your palette a little bit.
It is.
Oh, we're going up close for this one. There we go. Dang.
Okay, so now I'm moving on to definitely more saturation, darker values. And again, putting that color down, smearing it right on top. Now, when I put my paint down on my paper, I don't have a puddle on my paper. So when I smear it, I'm using the dry brush technique of letting these thin wisps kind of pull that paint down. If my paper was very wet and I had this huge puddle, then that would actually like moisten my brush and I wouldn't necessarily get the thin wisps being dragged down. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Someone just commented something I didn't think about, but if you have a willow on your property, you kind of have to give it a haircut, and it's a mess.
I've never thought about that before.
Where are you? I'll pin you. Laura, you get a pin, and you get a pin, and you get a pin.
That is so funny. Okay. Now that I've put in my dark values, I'm feeling like I can get to a place where I can pause and put in my trunk. So as you can see, I'm kind of switching back and forth between my 1-inch and my mop brush. I also have like a really big poofy mop. That's one of my favorite brushes.
That's the painting secret, the poof mop.
The poof.
Do you have a favorite brush? It's a hard question.
It changes a lot. I do have a roll like Sarah's favorite brushes, but I found that like the more that I paint and the more I do different like projects and things like that, then obviously I'm going to have different loves and favorites for those. Okay, I'm going to pause right there. We're going to pause on our Weeping Willow. How's it going for you guys?
It's going good. You want to go front cam? You want to talk to the camera, or are we still painting?
We're gonna still paint, but if there are questions, I'm gonna kind of like keep an eye out to see if there's questions.
People just like that you're painting. Talking about willows a lot.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Well, good. Keep the willow conversation going. I love it when you guys interact. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix together a brown to paint the trunk of my tree. So I'm going to take my rose red and my yellow, and let's grab some blue. So what we're trying to mix here is brown. Brown is essentially dark orange. So if you have orange and black, you can make brown. If you have brown ready to go, use brown. You can usually get a brown mixture by mixing a muddy color. So that means colors that are not next to each other on the color wheel. So we're going for like green and red or blue and orange, that kind of thing. Usually if you mix those all together, you get a muddy brown color. And then you can add, like, let's say I'm mixing here and this is too red, you can add green. If it's too yellow, you can add a little bit of, well, I don't know if we have purple, maybe red and blue. Okay. So I want to make sure this is dry. Then I'm going to use my round 12 or whatever brush you feel comfortable using. I'm going to start putting in my trunk. Now this is where we're going to kind of differ here because what you painted is different than what I painted. So for me, I might have gone a little bit more into my trunk than you did, and you can decide as an artist, do I want to work around the green? Do I want to work around some of the green? What do I want? So for me, I actually kind of like that this is flowing in here nicely, kind of like this. So I'm going to work around that area like so. And then this one, I kind of like that it's peeking out, but then that's kind of covered up. So think about the areas that you want to be in front of your tree, the ones that are coming out towards you, and those are the ones that we are going to want to work around. Like this. And then you can follow the outline here, or you can just start to do your own thing. So this is, for me, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This area is kind of a lighter value, so maybe it makes sense for me to add a little branch in there. And then you can switch to your round 2 for the smaller kind of detail branches. And do as much or as little as you want.
Someone is asking if the background is blurry on our photo or on our video on the main camera to hide possible spoilers.
We're not trying to hide anything per se.
It is blurry though.
But it is blurry.
That has to do with our cameras.
That's just trying to create depth. But there may be something interesting happening behind me.
I've been trying to respond directly to you, Carrie, for like 10 minutes trying to figure out, but I'm using new software, so I just figured I'd ask. Someone's complimenting your lovely nails, Sarah.
Oh my gosh, thank
Here,
you.
let's pin it.
Funny story is I could probably count on one hand how many times I've actually gone to get my nails done, and that's because I've always felt like my hands weren't very feminine enough for pretty nails. I thought that I had very masculine hands. I didn't like my hands. And then like 2 weeks ago, I was like looking at my hands one day and I was just like, what a silly thing to think about my own hands. Like, what if I just liked them?
Yeah.
And so I decided to go get my nails done because, well, I don't know, I just realized how silly of it to like stop myself from doing that because I didn't think they looked that pretty. My hands make pretty things, so.
I like your hands. I think they're pretty.
Thank you.
Your toenails match too, don't they?
They do.
Got the full experience.
I really
the
did.
mani-pedi.
Okay, so now I added the trunk of my tree, and I feel pretty good about it. My trunk ended up pretty red, but I personally really like that, so I'm okay with that. Now remember, you can always shape your trunk more after you put color down. So let's say you put it down and you're like, oh, I actually don't really like how thick it is over here or whatever. Like you can try and thicken some areas. You can add a branch. We can't really take a branch away, but just know that like you can make adjustments as you go. Like it's kind of bothering me that this area is thicker up here than right here because usually trees thin out as they make their way up and out.
Sarah, we have a question that needs answered.
Okay.
Someone is wondering if there should be white spaces in the tree or if it should be all filled in.
If you have some white spaces, that's okay. The rule is as long as it's not distracting to you. So if you can see a white space and it's grabbing all of your attention that you're not able to pay attention to any other elements on your tree, then that maybe is taking away from your painting. If you have some white spaces there and they're not grabbing your attention, they're kind of like more minor or small, then it's not necessary to cover those up. So this is where it's a good practice to kind of like lean back and take a look and say, oh, that's distracting or not.
We have one other very important question. It's from someone, I think you know, Keenan HSC says, is this watercolor?
No, Keenan, it's not. You probably never heard of it.
Hi, sweet Kiki.
Hi, Keenan. Good to hear from you.
All right.
Okay.
Back into it.
So we put in my tree. Is this watercolor? Okay, that feels pretty good. And now what we're gonna do is our tree kind of had a chance to dry. And at this point you might be thinking like, well, what's happening here with my tree? Don't worry, we're gonna get there. I'm gonna do a couple more layers where I put down the wash and spread it. And then we're gonna do our texture with our detail brushes. And that's really gonna help it tie together. So just stick with me, okay? So let's actually grab a little bit more blue because I'm missing a little bit of that blue-green on my tree. So I'm going to look at where I want to put it. Let's put some here. Smear.
They are howling downstairs at the
They're
restaurant.
having a great time.
Literally howling like wolves.
There's a local family that owns a restaurant downstairs, and they're so nice.
She was our daughter's cheerleading coach for a bit.
Yeah, I'm really happy that they're busy tonight. That's so good for them. Okay, now I feel like I need to add maybe some more blue here. And if you want to try and follow, if you can still see like the outline textures and you want to try and follow that, go for it. If you can't, like me, just wing it. So now I'm starting to make my chunks a little bit smaller. Maybe smear a little here. And if your tree is kind of all ending at one spot, well, like your smear is kind of all stopped at once, sometimes I'll take my round 12 and just help the smears to have an uneven bottom length, kind of more to what you would see for a willow. Don't be afraid to go outside the outline too, because that's what I'm doing.
I have a question for the audience out there. I took a arborist class in college because I love plants. And I remember we had a Sacramento arborist come in and said that people like to plant willows on their property because they're beautiful, but they don't realize that they're a huge attractant to ant colonies. And you get these like unbelievably huge ant infestations. Those of you who have willows, Please
Is this
chime
true?
in. Is this true?
Because I've wanted.
Yeah.
And Michael's like, I don't know.
I don't want ants.
I don't know about that. Okay. That's looking, I mean, this one maybe got a little out of hand, but I just like tell myself whenever that happens, like, there's a willow tree that looks like this somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Someone said, I'm going to pin a comment. They like how there's a heart in the middle of your willow.
Oh, this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cute. Okay. No, Jennifer says no ants on her willow.
Well, okay, we can get one. Except I don't think it'll live here. Will it? Another question. Anyone in Missouri? Can you have a willow tree here?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to grab a fan brush, and what we want to mix is a darker green. So whatever green that you've been using, make it darker. So I'm going to grab some more forest green here, and we're almost done with our painting at this point.
This is going swimmingly. Your painting is beautiful.
Chris says that she has 3 willow trees, never an ant infestation. She did have a woodpecker kill one, though.
I do have a question for you, Chris. Are you an ant in disguise trying to get me to plant a willow tree in my yard?
Is an ant saying this?
Is an ant saying this?
Okay, so now that I have my fan brush with my dark value green, this is where I can start putting in some detail lines. So I can take my fan, and you want to flip it skinny side, and you're just going to kind of like do a few vertical lines up and down. And then when it gets to the bottom, you kind of like just do dashes like this. Like think of the individual leaves.
That looks so good.
On a willow. So you can do a few strokes down and then dashes. Something else that I kind of like to do too, but it's a little bit hard, so only do this if you're feeling a little bit edgy, is I kind of like to like do half my brush and swoop it up and out, kind of like a swirly texture a little bit. That didn't do it very well, but it's kind of like maybe it's on this side.
Jennifer says that her daughter, Ari, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, says that your tree looks like the wishing tree from True. I don't know what True is.
From True?
But
I don't know if I know that.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you.
You know what? We're going to watch True.
We're going to figure it out.
We're going to figure that out.
Okay. So kind of keep going through. You do the edges, you can do the middle. Just keep adding these kind of textures. If you do not have a fan brush, you can use your round 2 and do the same thing. You can do long kind of vertical lines and then dashes along the bottom. And don't forget the very bottom of our tree here too. So you can do it in your tree and at the edge here.
Goodbye, Keenan and Coda and Nicole. He says beautiful tree. It was great hearing from you, Keenan.
Bye, you guys. See you Saturday. We're seeing them Saturday.
Man, I love that texture detail there.
Yeah, the texture detail is really what brings it together. Before you do the texture detail, it kind of just looks like a hairy, furry tree. But then when you do a little bit of that texture, you're like, oh, I kind of see the texture a little bit. And you might be wondering, okay, well, how do I know when it's enough? When do I stop? This is a hard question to answer because it's kind of more up to you guys, but it's kind of like a feeling where you just go, is this enough? And you kind of look, take a step back and say, oh, that's bothering me, or da-da-da. And it's when you take a step back and say, this is good enough. That's when you're good. That's when you're good to go. And let's say you do some textures and you don't like the textures. Well, this is the wonderful thing about watercolor. We can soften them.
I got a question from Amy. I'm going to put it up.
Okay.
She says, I'm going to ask it in all caps so you can see, not because I'm yelling. If you want skinnier looking branches, would you just do less dense greenery on the main tree? Does that make sense?
If you want skinnier branches, like more branches along the top.
I guess, yeah. Maybe like a more delicate looking.
Okay, yeah. So what you would do, and I'm using my heat gun to try this to show you, is basically you would add your main trunk because a tree has to come from somewhere, right? Unless there are some willow trees that actually covers the trunk and you just get a little hint of the bottom. And then when you go to do your branches, you take your liner, your round 2, your dagger brush, like any kind of small detail brush where you can do a thin line, and you can put in thinner branches along the top. So wherever it's like a lighter value that I feel confident that the branch would actually show up, that's where you can start putting them in. And sometimes by doing these kind of like branches that are peeking through, it doesn't feel like a wig of hair on a trunk. You know what I mean? Like by putting the branches kind of like smaller ones throughout the top and throughout the middle, it gives it a stronger base so you can see through it. And it does make it feel a little bit more delicate.
A willow wig. That's all I can think about now. Just plopping a wig on top. I don't want you to get a big head, Sarah, but you're really good at this, and this looks awesome.
You stop that.
Never. People are just so happy we're doing lives again, is the vibe.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that.
Because it's never happening again.
Because this is the last one. No,
one.
I'm just kidding. I know it's so funny. I was thinking about, when we first started doing lives, which by the way, our first day of business was a live paint along with like 7 people. And it was one of the first times I've taught ever. And I was so nervous. My hands were shaking. Our overhead camera was upside down because we couldn't figure out how to get the right orientation. And so it's just been such a journey.
For the latecomers, what are you painting this out of? What is this magical book?
This is the Landscape Workbook, which is a workbook that I created in partnership with Let's Make Art, where I created landscape projects, and the outlines are pre-printed on watercolor paper, and the directions are right here next to it. So it just helps you paint it faster, like you get to the painting part faster.
Who
which
doesn't
is fun.
like that? You know
and
what I mean?
We included outlines in the back this time. So then if you like painting on Arches paper or Stonehenge paper, you can just transfer the outlines onto that paper and use whatever supplies you prefer to use. So
love it.
We try to think through that and make sure it was a good experience for you guys.
There's another question up here.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. Workbook. Oh, it wasn't a question. I'm going to pin it. Claire says, this video helps so much when working through the workbook. I hope you do more from this workbook.
Ooh. Okay.
That'd be fun, huh?
That would be fun. Okay, I'm getting to a point where I'm like, this feels pretty good.
Let's close up on it. There we go.
Okay.
Wow.
Here, let me move it down a little.
Love it. Sarah, that's a willow tree.
Does it seem willowy?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes too, what I like to do if I'm feeling, a little bit edgy is like on places where there are no trees or greenery, like I like to do the little like dash lines along the edge, kind of creating think about the really thin, the small leaves are at the very edges of trees. They're not dense in the center. They're just kind of on the perimeter.
The wispies.
Yeah, and I think that adds to like the overall feel of it as well.
I'm going to pin another comment because it was so nice. Wait, man, there's a lot. Here we go. I'm going to pin it. It says, please tell Sarah that she inspires me to make art. You know what? That's the name of the game.
That is the name of the game. That's all I've ever... That's the whole point of it. Okay, one last thing. Last thing we got to do is we got to do the texture on the tree. So I decided to do a little like hole in my trunk here. So I'm just gonna I just mixed a little bit. I have indigo on my palette. I threw that in there at the Daniel Smith indigo, but just if you have black, Payne's gray, a brown, just like a darker value. And I'm gonna keep mixing till I get a nice, I want a dark brown. So basically a brown that's gonna show up on whatever my trunk color is. And then you're just gonna do kind of detail lines for the trunk of the tree.
Kate wants to know, if you were going to do a sky or a ground, would you do that or the tree first?
Okay, you always want to do, when you do landscapes, you always work back to front. So if I were to add this in a scene, the farthest thing in a landscape, almost all of the time, is the sky. So you do the sky first. Then if there was any landscape behind this tree and field, I would put that in. And then I would put in my tree and ground probably around the same time, and then do the details on my willow tree last. So just think of that. Whatever scene that you're seeing that you want to paint that's a landscape, in watercolor, you work back to front. So sky first, then your far ground, then your mid ground, and then your the ground that's closest
foreground. That was worth it.
The absolute blank that went on my face.
That was good. That was good stuff. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm a professional. It's fine.
Mara, I hope I'm spelling your name right. You're getting pinned because you're being nice to me. And that's how you get ahead in this game. Michael inspires me to learn more about science. Heck yeah, girl. Heck yeah.
You know.
In a different life, I was a biologist.
Yep.
Many
you are
moons.
still one. You're a biologist for us, and you graduated with a degree in biology.
That's true.
Okay. I think I'm. Okay, there's one thing that's bothering me. This section right here.
Why is it bothering you?
It's bothering me because I was trying to work around this chunk for it to be in front. But now it doesn't, it just kind of feels like this big gap, and that's just the shape of the trunk. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if that were to happen, I'm going to try something. I've never really tried this before, but I like to try things, and we're going to do it together to see if it works. So I'm going to lighten some of this brown and take it out. So by that, I'm just taking a large brush. I'm going to use clean water, and just right on the spot that I want to lift out, I'm going to put clean water. Okay, and then I'm going to take a clean paper towel. And lift. And then let that dry, and I'm going to paint green on top of that, and I'm going to see if that will make it feel like the greenery is in front of my trunk. Now remember, every paper has limitations. So this is more of a cellulose paper. It's not 100% cotton paper. So with 100% cotton paper, you usually are able to work it a little bit more. Like you can rub things on it and it won't totally degrade. So just kind of be aware of what paper you're using and be aware of how it's being, and don't force it to do something you don't want it to do. Like for me, I can see that maybe if I kept on rubbing, my paper would start to pill. So for me, I went, oh, that's enough lifting, Sarah. That's good. And we're just going to see how it goes. Okay.
For everyone asking, if you came late, these videos get saved to Facebook and YouTube, and you can watch them from the beginning. And it ain't no thing.
It ain't no thing.
It'll probably be funnier the second time. I don't know. That makes sense. Okay, so I dried that area. Let's see what it does when I put green right on top. Like that. And then take a mop brush or whatever brush you have and smear. Oh, that feels better. Doesn't that seem better? Feels better to me. I forgot to switch it, but I did. There we go. I was reading comments. Someone said, Rita said her husband heard from across the room and said, "Is that the painting lady?"
It sure is.
That's actually what my kids say when she comes home. Like, is the painting lady home?
Is the painting lady? No, she's at work. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, So, and then if you want to, one little last thing that you can do is if you kind of want to smear out your trunk tree, the trunk of your tree to kind of get a ground, you can. That's only if you want to ground it. You don't have to. And that's it. That's our willow tree. And that was so fun.
That was a great time.
That was a great time. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this time together. I know that I did. I sure know that Michael did.
Thanks for all your sweet words, everyone. You know what? You're all right.
You're okay.
All of you are all right.
And so thank you for taking the time out to paint with me and join me tonight. Even if you didn't paint and you just wanted to hang out, that absolutely is wonderful too, because I want it to feel like we're just friends hanging out, and we just like to laugh and joke and have a good time and talk, because that's what we like to do. And I think it makes making art more fun, and I think it makes it easier to take risks. When we aren't afraid to take risks, that's when we can discover more. And discover doesn't always mean success. Discover sometimes mean, oh, I discovered that I should not do this type of, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope that you were willing to do something different tonight. And I hope that painting with us, you decided to try something new, because that's really where the magic happens. Thank you so much. Nina says, what do you do with your paintings that you paint live? Gift them? No, they sit in a drawer. Like all of the paintings I do, they just sit in a drawer. Maybe I should do something with them. That might be really fun.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me. And we are going to do this again.
Heck yeah.
I am inviting you to a live paint-along for next week, February 13th, which is Galentine's Day. If you don't know, it's for the Valentines, for all the gals in your life.
I'll be here. Don't tell anyone.
Michael's welcome. Everybody is welcome, let's be honest. And we'll meet back here at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're going to paint again. And I'm really excited about it. So please be there, because we're going to just have so much fun. And then I will post in the Watercolor Facebook group. So if you're watching on Facebook, you're on the business page. In the group, Let's Make Art Watercolor, I will post a poll on what we should paint. And then that's how you know what we will be painting next Tuesday. Okay?
Love it.
So keep an eye out for that. Again, if you want this landscape workbook, we have them on our website. I think we still have these mop brushes too. So if you liked that texture and things and playing with it, this is actually a really fun brush. And I like mop brushes for blending. So I use them for two things: textures, like dragging, and for blending out things. Oh, just a dream. So that's what I like to use those for. Michael.
On the 13th of February, when our next live is, do you feel comfortable sharing what we're going to paint?
No, wait, we are going to do a poll in the Facebook group.
Sorry. I'm just reading comments.
Are you paying attention, sir?
I did hear you just say that. Let's see. eFazio23. We're going to do a poll in the Watercolor Facebook group about what we should paint.
So if you're wondering what we're painting next week, join the Facebook group, the Watercolor one. Let's Make Art Watercolor. And I'll put a poll up of what we're going to paint, and you guys can vote.
I listened. I promise.
Oh, it's amazing. And just to remind you, it's Tuesday, February 13th. We were going to do Wednesday, but that's Valentine's Day, and I got a hot date that night.
He sounds nice.
He's real nice. And okay, February 13th, 7 p.m., meet you back here, and it's going to be so great. Join the Facebook group to vote on what we're painting. And again, thank you guys for being patient with us. I know that it's been really hard since pretty much January 1st, because it's a transition. We haven't really been able to share what's happening, but I'm asking you just be patient, because it's good things. I promise. So see you next Tuesday. Thank you for painting with me. And Michael, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.